Okay, so today I'm going to be testing out some new makeup launches. I have a couple of brand new launches, including the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip Primer, the new glowy version. I think this is going to be really, really pretty. I swatched it and I cannot wait to put it on my skin. And then I actually have a new foundation from One Size. I love that brands are coming out with more long-wearing matte foundations these days. If you have oily skin, I'm sure you can relate. So many of the foundation launches over the past year or two have been very hydrating, very luminous, very glowy. And while I do like some of those formulas, I'm excited to see some more matte options out there. I do have the new Makeup by Mario powder, which I tried in last week's video, but I want to do like a follow-up wear test. And then I have a couple of these new Too Faced eyeshadows. I'm curious to know if they're going to be very similar to the Urban Decay Moon Dust shadows, or maybe even better, so I'll apply those. I have a blush from Buxom. I have a Makeup by Mario lipstick that I've never tried. Okay, for the eyes, I'm kind of going back and forth between two different options. So I have the Natasha Denona I Need a Worm. I did film a video last week using this. If you want to check it out, I'll link it below. But I also just got this in the mail randomly. I don't think I'm on the Too Faced PR list, at least not like their official one. Once in a while, I'll get like a really random package, and they sent me their Appley and Love palette, which I think actually came out a few months ago. A lot of you have said that you really love this, and I do think the colors could be really fun for fall, so I might do more of a berry toned look. That's kind of the direction I'm leaning in since I did use the Natasha Denona palette in last week's video. Okay, so for foundation, like I said, I'm using the new One Size foundation. This actually isn't available yet. They did send it to me in the mail as PR, and I'm excited to try it out because this is the type of formula I feel like I would truly love. It's going to be available on September 24th for $44. This does come in a very heavy, very luxurious feeling glass bottle. The shade I'm using today is Fair 50, which might be slightly light right now, but I think as we head into the fall and winter, it will actually match really well. So this foundation comes in 38 shades. It's supposed to be long wearing, sweat-proof, waterproof. They say it's full coverage, but also very comfortable. And it is supposed to give you like a blurred, smooth finish. So I'm actually going to use two different primers with this foundation. On the right side of my face, I'll use the new Huda Beauty Easy Blur Primer, which I do typically use with the Huda Beauty foundation. But I have tested this with other foundations and it wears so beautifully under a lot of different formulas. And then on the other side, I'm actually going to try out the new Milk Makeup Hydro Grip Glow Primer. This is supposed to be like the original Hydro Grip, so very hydrating, a little bit sticky, so it extends the wear of your makeup, but it has like this warm kind of golden glow to it. So I like pairing more hydrating foundations with matte, or I like pairing hydrating primers with matte foundations because I feel like they balance out really well. So we'll see how this foundation wears with these two, but of course I'll wear it off camera with other primers as well. So a little bit of this Huda Beauty primer goes a long way. I typically like to apply it right under my eyes because I do have some large pores, and then I'll usually take it in this area as well where I have texture. It really is incredibly smoothing. I figured I would use it today since I've been using it for I guess about a week at this point, and I can't stop using it. It is so gorgeous. And then on the other side, I'm going to use the new Milk Makeup Primer. So this actually comes with a little bit less product. You get 1 fluid ounce. I think the original Hydro Grip comes with 1.5 fluid ounces. The new glowy version is a little bit less expensive. I haven't done the math to break it down. I'll do it and put it on the screen for you guys just to see if you get a better deal with the original. Here, let me just do it back here so you can see. That's what the swatch looks like. Really pretty, very glowy, and I feel like you can see like actual shimmer particles in there. But once you have foundation on, I don't know if you're going to be able to. I kind of like that it's more golden rather than super bronzy because there are so many bronzy products out right now. So I feel like this is just something a little bit different. Like it's going to add a warm glow to the skin. I was going to say, but maybe not look too orangey. I don't know. See, my skin is pretty red. So typically a lot of very warm products sometimes make it look a little bit more red toned. It's hard to see. Because I'm wearing foundation on top, that's what I would do anyway. I don't think you'll see the color I don't think you'll see the color. Okay. Why I'm having trouble thinking and talking at the same time. It's a true Monday. We have a teething baby. He does not want to sleep. And this is the part about parenthood that I forgot about because we have a toddler and you blank out the sleepless nights. Anyway, if I'm If the words aren't coming out as well, that's why. I keep touching my face like this because I want to see how sticky it is. It does feel like the original Milk Makeup Hydro Grip. So there is like a sticky feel to it, but it's not as sticky as like the e.l.f. Power Grip. A lot of people say the Power Grip is an exact dupe for the Hydro Grip, but I find that the Hydro Grip is slightly less sticky, but still locks my makeup into place. So honestly, if the e.l.f. Power Grip is a little bit too much for you, I know it's a high-end alternative, but the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip might be a little bit more ideal because you get that tacky feel without it being too over the top. I saw a comment and someone was like, I'll wait for e.l.f. to dupe it. And there is a high likelihood they could do that. Okay, so the texture of this foundation is definitely thicker than the Huda foundation. That's just what I'm comparing it to right now because that is the one that okay, this has a lot of coverage. I can already tell. I feel like I pumped out way too much on the back of my hand. Anyway, the Huda one is just what I'm comparing it to right now because that is the one that I'm currently testing. I feel like they're both newer foundations that have very similar claims. And honestly, I'm just loving that one a lot. I can definitely appreciate a fuller coverage foundation because my skin does break out. I can deal with a lot of redness. And what I said in last week's video when I was testing out the Huda one is I feel like full coverage foundations have come such a long way. Like I can just tell that this is an updated formula as well compared to like 2016 fuller coverage foundations because they're so lightweight. Like it doesn't feel like I'm wearing anything on my skin. Even though when I initially touched that, I was like, oh, that's a little bit of a thicker formula. It's thicker, but it's not heavy on the skin at all. I'm just building it up a little bit on this side of my face. Like I said, this is probably a little bit light right now, but you know, as we head into the fall, whatever tan I have will end up fading. And I think it will work. I'm also not sure if this will oxidize. So I feel like I always just prefer to go a little bit lighter initially. That looks even more matte than the Huda Beauty one. Initially, I was going to try it with the one size, what is this called again? Oil Sucker Extreme Mattifying Primer. I tried this with my go-to Catrice foundation the other day. I'm not sure that I love that. I feel like it's almost a little bit too matte for me, which is interesting because I do like very, very matte products. And I wore it on a hot day. The weather has been all over the place because it's September, so some days it's cold, but that day it got up to 80 and we were outside. We went to the pumpkin patch, so we were running around. Oh, and I think I actually filmed that day too, so I had my makeup on for a long time. I'll share a full review with you on that primer soon, but initially it is extremely mattifying. Like if you don't have oily skin, I don't really recommend that product. Anyway, I'm glad that I didn't use that today because with the way this foundation is looking initially, I think this foundation combined with that primer would have been too matte for me. Okay, the Huda Beauty side looks good. This side, no. Like this foundation is completely caking up on the Milk Makeup Primer. That looks really bad. Very patchy, very uneven. That's interesting to me. They're both water-based products, just for those of you that are curious. I don't have this issue with the Hydro Grip Primer and other foundations I've tried. Like even though it is a sticky, tacky formula, it normally does layer really well under foundations, but this one does not look good. So I think I'm actually going to, I think I'm going to have to take that off because it's looking so cakey. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit of the Huda Beauty Primer on this side of my face as well. That is the problem with trying a new primer and a new foundation. It's hard to know which product is the reason why your makeup looks bad or looks good, really. Okay, let me just apply this foundation on the rest of my face and then I'll check in. It definitely feels light on the skin. Again, I'm just comparing it to the Huda Beauty one. I don't think it looks quite as smooth as the Huda Beauty one, but this one definitely leans more matte. So if you want like a true matte finish, this is the one. So this is the Tower 28 Concealer. I have the shade DTLA. And I feel like this will actually be a good balance because it is a very hydrating, very thin formula. I've been using the LYS Beauty Bronzer Stick a ton on my channel over the last few months. So I think I'll switch it up for today's video. Let's use the Makeup by Mario one. I haven't used this in a little while. This used to be my go-to. Their Soft Sculpt Shaping Stick, and I have the shade Light. I find Makeup by Mario to be a little bit longer lasting, but I like how the LYS one just melts into the skin and blends out in seconds. I also think the LYS color match might be a little bit better for me, but you know what? Let me just throw this on and then I'll go over the edges with my foundation brush to kind of blend it into the skin even more. Actually, the LYS Beauty one might have been a little bit more ideal today since I do have such a matte base on. That is a super matte foundation. Like, I don't have an incredibly mattifying primer on. I don't have any powder on. If you're someone who doesn't like to set your makeup, I almost wonder if you could get away with not setting this because it does look so matte on its own. It kind of looks like I already set it. I want to try this foundation with the e.l.f. Jelly Pop. The e.l.f. Jelly Pop is like the most hydrating primer I have. And I almost think that would balance this matte foundation out so well. I mean, if you like a super matte finish, this might be your foundation. But if you have any kind of dryness, you're probably going to want to stay pretty far away from this. Okay, it is time for the Makeup by Mario powder. This is a newer launch. I tried it out in last week's video for the first time. It is the most gorgeous blurring powder I think I've ever tried. So one of my favorite powders of all time is the Huda Beauty powder. That one is very smoothing, very mattifying, incredibly long wearing, and it does give a nice blur to the skin. This Makeup by Mario powder, it's so gorgeous. It is incredibly smoothing. Like I mean, I'm sure you could see the difference. You can see the difference right here, but my skin was just looking not its absolute best, and this just smooths over the area so well. The difference between this powder and like the Huda Beauty powder is this one is so lightweight. Like it feels like such a fluffy, airy powder. I would say the texture reminds me of the e.l.f. Halo Glow, but this sits on the skin even better than that one. Like this one truly gives your skin a soft, filtered look. I forgot, I wanted to try this. It's from Tarte. It's their Maracuja Juicy Plumping Lip Oil. So I actually bought this a little while ago. I have the shade Cinnamon. I think I bought this pretty soon after they launched them. Ooh, this smells good. It smells like vanilla cookies. Okay, I definitely made the right choice with this color. So online, it looks very intense. Oh, I definitely feel a little bit of a tingle there, nothing too over the top, but it looks amazing. So there's definitely a tingle. It's not an unpleasant, like burning sensation. It's just a slight tingly feel. We'll see if it plumps up my lips. So for the brows, I'm just using the NYX Thick It Stick It Brow Gel. I'm just going to run that through really quickly. And then once the brows dry, I'll just go in with the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Tint pen to fill them in even more. Okay, that took me like 3 or 4 minutes. So here's what my lips look like now. I do think it worked to plump them up just a little bit. I like this formula. It feels very nice, very thin, slippery. I don't know if it's going to be really long lasting. I mean, we'll see as the video goes on, but I like how it has like a hint of color without being too over the top. Okay, so for the eyes, let's use the Too Faced palette. This is such cute packaging. It has these little apples on it. I know people either love or hate these. Honestly, I feel the nostalgia with this one. It reminds me of the old school days when I loved the Too Faced chocolate bar palettes. So I kind of like it. Okay, this one has a strong scent. I'm assuming it's apple. It's kind of like a caramel apple scent. I feel like it's perfect for fall. A lot of people say like cover up the greens and then it's a very neutral palette. I really wouldn't consider this to be a typical neutral palette. Like this is a yellow, there are some pinks, some berries, red tones, greens. I think there's a good mix in here. You obviously get some staple neutrals, but when I initially looked at it, I was surprised by how much more colorful it looked in person than I initially thought it did looking at it online. I think for today's video, I'm going to do a little bit more of a pink toned look. I'm going to start with this shade right here just as a transition to bring in some warmth, and then I'll go for this pink one. This shade is Caramel Apple. I'm just going to blend it up as a transition shade. It's applying nicely so far. I know Too Faced shadows get such mixed reviews, but I don't know. I feel like I'm just going to take like the lightest highlight shade from this palette and really blend out the edges. The Too Faced Natural Nudes palette is still just one of my absolute favorites though. Okay, let me do the same thing on the other eye and then I'll be right back. I'm just going to stick with a very small amount of that one. Next, I'm going to go in with this pink shade right here. And this one is called Core Values. Such a cute little theme. We just went apple picking over the weekend. We have a little like local orchard. And it's so cute because it has all of the fall related things, but it's actually open all summer. So we always go with my parents. We get like a season pass. It includes the orchard and like the little local pumpkin patch. And we just go and hang out. There's like live music, there's drinks and food, little rides. So we went apple picking this weekend and it was fun. Honestly, these shadows are going on perfectly. I don't have any complaints about them. The shadows themselves feel a little bit more on the dry side, I guess, compared to like a Natasha Denona matte, but they're almost a little bit easier to work with because they're slightly more buildable rather than being super intense, like right as soon as you apply them to the eyes. I think I'm going to take this shade right here, So Snackable. This one might be a little bit more difficult to work with. We'll see. I'm going to keep this to the outer corner. Sometimes these shades can be a little bit patchy, just to add a little bit more color to the eyes. And then we'll see. Let's just see how this goes. So I'm just going to focus this in the outer corner and then slowly blend it into the crease. Really pretty. Normally, I'm a fan of like a good monochromatic eye, but I might end up taking like a gold shade all over the lid. I feel like gold combined with this in the outer corner would be really pretty. Okay, this shade is maybe a little bit more difficult to work with. Again, not creamy. This doesn't feel like the same formula as their natural nudes palette. It definitely feels dry, which isn't bad for a powder shadow. Like sometimes that is more of an ideal formula because you can slowly build it up. But I don't know that this is going to be like the easiest shade in the palette to really work with. I'm just going to go back in with that pink shade and really blend out the crease. It doesn't really matter if it's a little bit patchy in the end. I mean, it does for like quality's sake, but on my eyes, I don't care as much because I'm going to do like a shimmer all over the lid that will just glide right over that. Okay, I'm trying to decide if I should go in with this shade or if it's also going to be a little bit patchy. I feel like I could add a little bit of that. That's a gorgeous color. I don't really know that I have that shade in any other palette. It's like purpley, oh, but it also has like red to it. It's so gorgeous. I think there are a lot of pretty tones in this palette, honestly. I definitely don't find it to be like your typical neutral palette with pops of color. I used to wear so much color and I miss those days so much, but I really just don't find that colorful eyeshadow looks are as easy as neutral looks. It's just, I love color on the eyes so much. It's just when I'm in a hurry, I don't think to do it because it just takes a while. I do want to use one of these sparkly Too Faced shadows all over the lid, but I think I'm actually going to place down more of a colorful shadow as a base. Yeah, this shade right here, Appley in Love. Ooh, okay, whoa, this is a very intense shadow. I was expecting it to be more of like a low-key satin, and I guess technically it is a satin, but that has a lot of pigment. Really smooth and creamy. Okay, I wasn't planning on going this colorful on the eyes, but I guess we'll just go for it. I feel like one of the golden shades all over the lid will kind of tone it down. That is pretty. That's like a gorgeous holiday color. So I think I am going to tone that down a little bit. I'm trying to decide what shade to use. Okay, so these are the Too Faced Disco Crush Multi-Use Eye and Face Sparkles. So I have two shades, Magic Sprinkles, which is a cute name, and then this one is Mystic Pink, which I feel like goes with the look a little bit better. So here's Magic Sprinkles, here's Mystic Pink. It's like coppery and pink at the same time. Let's do that one. Okay, so when I initially saw these, I think I have to be careful with these. I was like, those are going to be a dupe for the Urban Decay Moondush shadows. And they feel different than the Moondush shadows. They have a little bit of a gritty feel to them. Wow, they are definitely very rich, very intense. I am getting some fallout. They're not in like a super creamy base like the ColourPop Super Shock shadows. They almost feel like a pressed glitter, kind of. I don't know how to explain it. Like they're definitely pressed, they're firm, but I feel like once the glitter's on the finger, it's like too loose, and that's why you're going to end up with a lot of fallout. So I don't know if it's going to stay on the eyes throughout the day. Really pretty though. I'm going to have to do a little bit of cleaning up this look when I'm done to get it to like fully come together to look a little neater, but just stick with me. We'll get there. I'm just tight lining with this Milk Makeup pencil in the shade Outer Space. For liquid liner, my current go-to is the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes Liquid Liner. This is so rich, so intense, very dark, very black. But what I love about this is I feel like I have a lot of control. So even though it is a super rich pigmented formula, I can apply it to my eyes, create a wing without feeling like my wing is getting out of control. For the lower lash line, I'm going to start with this softer pink shade. I don't know that I'm going to go too dark on the lower lash line. Let's just start with this one and see how it goes. And then, I don't know. I feel like a berry in the waterline would be pretty. I might actually keep the lower lash line a little bit softer. I might grab a bronze or copper colored eyeliner for the waterline. Okay, so to clean it up, I normally cut this out, but I literally just take like a concealer brush and then a little bit of concealer on the back of my hand. That glitter is everywhere. It's like on my shirt, on my hand. I tend to blend eyeshadow in this area. As I'm blending, I just get a little bit of, I guess, fallout right here. So I just kind of like to brighten up the inner corner just a little bit. And then the outer corner, like right underneath the eyeliner. Now this can look a little bit harsh right here, but I go over everything with a light shadow just to make sure everything is well blended. But I don't like to have too much shadow right in this area. I personally just like the way it looks if it's a little brighter. Just going to take this lightest shade to kind of blend out the brow bone a little bit too. And then that's pretty much it before I go in with mascara. And I think I'm pretty good for now. For the inner corner, I'm just going to take this shade. Let's go with this one. It's called Crunch Time. It's like a sparkly white glitter. That looks pretty. Okay, this is from LA Girl and it's in the shade Penny. It's kind of close to the shade that I have on my lid. I feel like it just adds like a touch. Yeah, that's really pretty. It just adds like a touch of it. I think it just elevates it a little bit. You guys, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm struggling to create a very like nice flowing video today. I just can't get the words out. Sometimes they come really easily as I'm like sitting here and doing my makeup and talking, but sometimes my mind blanks and I can't do two things at once. Okay, so for mascara, this is from One Size. It is the Fantasize mascara. This is so good. It is very, very dramatic. It's a super volumizing mascara. So you get a ton of drama, but it also really lengthens the lashes. It builds so nicely. And that's what I like about this. Like, even with the first coat, you get drama, but then you can slowly layer it up to get even more drama on the eyes, and it stays in place extremely well. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit of bronzer just to warm up the skin because I do feel like the foundation still looks too light. So I definitely don't think this foundation oxidizes or really even dries darker than it initially looks when you apply it, which is good. So I have this blush. This is from Buxom. Again, I bought this a while ago. I've had a basket of products I've been meaning to try just sitting. Oh, okay. This is definitely creamier than I thought it was going to be. This is their Plump Shot Collagen Peptides Advanced Plumping Blush. And I have the shade Blissful Buff. So I actually thought this might be kind of similar to the Makeup by Mario blushes. This is a very light shade, which actually goes perfectly for the way that I like to wear my makeup. They have a lot of other shades too. Well, I don't know about a lot. I think they have like 5 or 6 other shades too. So if you want more of an intense look or you have a deeper skin tone than me, you might want to go with another shade. I feel like I should have applied this before I powdered because I don't know if this is going to layer really well on top of powder or if it's going to look cakey, but let's just go for it. It kind of has like that cream to powder feel to it. So it is really creamy. Oh, that's really pretty. Actually, it's going on perfectly on top of powder. I was going to say it's creamy, but then as I was blending it out, I'm like, oh, that has like a smooth, silky, almost powdered feel to it. It's actually a little bit more vibrant on the cheeks than I thought it was going to be, which is good to know. That's just like a light layer of it. I definitely prefer a more toned down look, but that's gorgeous. I really like the finish of that because it has like a nice blurred finish to it. Again, it kind of dried down to a powder finish. Yeah, it doesn't even really feel like wet on my skin. I'm actually going to use a Makeup by Mario lipstick today. I've never tried this formula. I've heard amazing things. These are the Super Satin lipsticks. So I have 2 different shades. I have Flat Iron, and then I also have Bronx Baby. I think all of the names were inspired by New York City. I miss New York City so much. Before we had kids, we used to go like twice a month on the weekends. This one was the first one, which is Flatiron, and then this one is Bronx Baby. It's been so long since we went. We haven't gone since last May, which is so sad. Okay, before I go in with those lipsticks, I'm going to take the ColourPop Lippie Pencil in BFF and just use this to line my lips so I have a good base to start with. So let me start with a little bit of the darker one and just blend that all over. These are, do they have a chocolate smell? They smell good. It's not like fully chocolate, but it smells really good. These are so creamy. In the fall, I always end up going back to cream lipsticks rather than just like a lip gloss or lip oil. I love a little bit more pigment, and these are gorgeous. Okay, so now I'm just going to take the lighter one in Flatiron and apply that right in the center. That is a gorgeous formula. It is so creamy, possibly the creamiest lipstick I've tried. I would say the formula I would most compare it to would be like the Too Faced Lady Bold lipsticks, or what are they called? Cocoa Bold lipsticks. They have like those two different lines. It's kind of close to that, maybe slightly thicker, but this has like a nice satin finish to it. It's definitely not overly glossy, just a very, very beautiful formula. Okay, let me wrap up my thoughts on things. So let me share some final thoughts with you, or I guess some initial thoughts now that I've had the chance to try these products out. Okay, this obviously I have to try out on another day. I think I'm going to wear it side by side with the original Hydro Grip Primer and a foundation that I'm very familiar with, because obviously you saw when I applied it today, the foundation immediately caked up and it looked really bad on top of this primer. So I honestly wouldn't think that it would perform that differently than the original one. So I need to put this one to the test and then I'll come back and update you. The foundation itself, I like. I think it's going to be a very long wearing foundation just because of the way it is sitting on my skin right now. I can tell it's going to stay in place well on my oily skin. It does look a little bit more like I'm wearing an actual foundation compared to the Huda Beauty one. So that is something to consider, but we'll see by the end of the day how it looks. Sometimes with foundations that are a lot more matte in the beginning of the day, they end up looking better throughout the day once your skin gets a little bit oily. We'll see. I have to try this out a few more times. I think it did pair really well with the Huda Beauty primer, but this has gone really well with every foundation I've tried it with. So I think this is actually going to end up being one of my top favorite primers of all time. Did I talk about the Makeup by Mario powder? I've been using this for like the last week. It is such a gorgeous powder, so blurring, so smoothing. It really does make your skin look filtered in real life. So I absolutely love that. I hope you could hear what I was saying as I was applying the blush, but I really like this formula. I think it's going to be a great cream blush for people who don't love creams and tend to prefer powders, because it goes on like a cream and then it almost instantly dries down to more of a powder finish. And again, the foundation I'm wearing could be affecting it, so let me wear it a few more times, but initially I love it. I think it's very beautiful. It gives you that soft diffused finish, and I hope it wears well throughout the day. Lip products. I'm really pleasantly surprised by this Tarte lip product. Obviously, I didn't have it on for as long as I could have, but initially I do think it actually plumps up the lips. It feels soft and it feels very light on the lips. There's like a slight oiliness there. It's not sticky or thick like a lot of other lip oils that are coming out these days. It does feel like it has a true lip oil texture, like very thin, very slippery, but I like the color. Again, I got cinnamon, so if you want a little bit of color, this might be a great option. I think overall they're going to be more sheer than they actually appear online. I absolutely love the lipstick formula. It's so creamy, so moisturizing, just very, very comfortable. But again, I feel like it's going to stay in place well. I keep saying that about a lot of these products. Obviously, I will have to wear them to know for sure, but I mean, I test makeup for a living. So initially I do kind of have a good idea as to whether or not a product is going to be slightly long wearing or if it's going to wear off quickly. This is the type of formula that I feel like is going to stay in place well. Obviously, with eating and drinking, it will come off throughout the day because it's not a transfer proof formula, but for such a creamy, rich formula, honestly, I feel like I'm going to be impressed by it. The Too Faced palette. Obviously, I haven't tried all of the shades in here. I mean, I only used like 6 or 7. So I want to use everything. It is so scented. I can smell this product as I open it. It smells good. I like scented makeup, but if you are very sensitive to fragrance, skip it, because even when I like didn't have this palette near me, I could smell it. So I feel like the scent on the eyes lingers, and that can definitely be a big turnoff to people who are sensitive to fragrance. I think the color story is really interesting. Very, very pretty. If you're someone who's still buying a ton of palettes these days, maybe you have a lot of eyeshadow palettes in your collection that are like this, but personally, I really don't. I feel like there's a good mix of berries and neutrals, some pops of green, some yellow tones, some pinks. I really do like the color story. A few of the shadows ended up looking patchy. In the end, it came together, but I don't know that this is like their highest quality palette ever. So let me keep testing out the shades. Maybe it really is just like this shade and this shade that end up looking a little bit patchy, because realistically, everything else I used went on pretty well. So we'll see once I use it a few more times. And then this Disco Crush shadow from Too Faced. Actually, I used this one in Mystic Pink. This is really pretty. Definitely some fallout, so I would recommend using this before you do, or doing your eyes before you do your face. If you love the Moon Dust shadows from Urban Decay, I think you might want to stick with those. Those almost feel a little bit more refined. Like these have thicker, chunkier glitter, but we'll see if the shadow actually ends up falling on my face throughout the day. Initially it did, but if it will stay in place after I have it on, then I feel like that's fine. So those are my initial thoughts on the products. I know a little bit non-committal this time around. Sometimes I know for sure if they are amazing products. Like my last video, those were some of the best products I've tried in 2024. Sometimes I have a lot of fails. This time around, I feel like a lot of these products do require more testing. So I'll come back and share some full updates with you, but it's just kind of fun to try products on for the first time with you on camera, share my initial thoughts. And I also love hearing your feedback as well, because sometimes I'll try something and you guys are like, no, it wears really well with this type of primer, or it blends really well with this type of technique. So that's always helpful too. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll definitely be back to share some more fall related makeup looks. So let me know if there's anything specific that you want to see or any products you want me to try out. But otherwise, I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye.